There are moments in your life when everything seems to slow to a halt, really now truly here, not dramatically, quietly. The calls stop coming, the ideas feel dull, the excitement you once had feels like it's lost its voltage. You wake up and the world feels flat. You're not in crisis, but you're not in clarity either. You're suspended, uncertain, and the narrative your mind tells you in those moments is simple and brutal. You're paused. But here's the truth, no one ever taught you. What feels like paused is often sacrosanct. It's not failure. It's not regression. It's the signature vibration of a quantum shift. In spiritual traditions, they call this the gap. In quantum physics, it mirrors the space between superposition, the field of infinite potential that hasn't yet collapsed into a single outcome. But in human terms, it feels like nothing. It feels like emptiness, like your momentum evaporated, your selfhood blurred, your connection muted. You can't quite name what's off, but it's undeniably off. And if you're here now hearing these words, chances are you're in it. That strange in-between, that energetic pause between who you were and who you're becoming. And the worst part, it feels like you've lost your power. But what if that power was never gone? What if it's just shifting form, preparing to be expressed through a new version of you? Think of a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. The most disorienting part isn't the flight, it's the in-between. In the cocoon, its old selfhood dissolves, its structure breaks down. There is no map, just a profound surrender to something unknown, something essential, something beyond its own will. And in that breakdown, something new is constructed, not piece by piece, but by frequency. That's what you're in now, a vibrational restructuring. You are not paused, you are being recoded, but your ego doesn't like that. It was trained to associate movement with worth, progress with value. It wants plans, outcomes, validation. And so when nothing seems to be happening, it tells you you're failing, you're falling behind, you're missing the mark. But in the quantum field, stillness is not absence. It is realignment. This moment of stillness, of gap, of paused, is the whisper of your next timeline trying to anchor itself through you. Not from force, but from frequency. Because here's what most don't realize. When you transition from one timeline to another, one vibrational identity to the next, there's often a vibrational lag. Your field is adjusting. Your nervous system is repatterning. Your perception is recalibrating. You're not being punished. You're being rewired. It's not comfortable, and it's not meant to be, but it is sacrosanct. This illusion of paused is actually an invitation, not to push harder, not to fix, but to listen deeper, to ask, what part of me is dissolving? What part of me is quietly being reborn? The mind will demand answers. It will want steps, but the field wants presence. It wants honesty. It wants coherence, not achievement. You are in the doorway of transformation, not blocked, not broken, but between frequencies. And that gap, that void, that silence is exactly where new realities are seated. You're not falling behind. You're not paused. You're in transition. And that feels like gap. That moment when nothing seems to work, nothing seems to land, nothing seems to move. And in the mechanics of quantum reality, this gap is the recalibration point between timelines, not failure, but transformation. Quantum physics offers a metaphor: superposition. A particle exists in multiple states until observation collapses it into one. That gap isn't emptiness, it's every possibility, undifferentiated, waiting for coherence to trigger emergence. Schrödinger's famous cat isn't a philosophical standoff. It's a message. Your future exists until your energy collapses it into form. You're not paused. You're undefined until you remember who you are and align with that resonance. Then there's decoherence. When particles interact with the environment, superposition dissolve into singular realities. You too are interacting with conditioning, emotional echoes, habitual stress. While decoherence sounds destructive, it is actually the bridge. It dismantles the interference patterns of your old identity, allowing the blueprint of your next self to emerge. That dismantling feels like collapse, but it's also liberation. But decoherence takes time. Your nervous system doesn't reorganize in all breaths. Your heart's rhythm doesn't retune with a pep talk. That's why the gap can feel excruciating, because your energetic system isn't built for clarity. It's built for repetition. And yet, every shift begins in that energetic clearing. This is where emotional and energetic coherence becomes your anchor. HeartMath research shows that the heart doesn't just pump blood, it broadcasts coherence, curated emotional states that shift the electromagnetic field around you. When you align into clarity, gratitude, calm, your field reorganizes and your internal gap begins to stabilize. Not by pushing, but by presence. You aren't forced into new form, you're invited. But for that invitation to land, you must hold the gap with acceptance, not panic. Feel the disorientation. Acknowledge the emptiness. Let your body say, I know you're here. I know this feels strange, but I'm not leaving, because that 0 point in the quantum and in your being is where the next universe is born. Without your intentional presence, that gap turns stale. It calcifies into inertia, but held with awareness, it becomes fertile ground. Let that be the revelation here. The gap between timelines isn't the wall, it's the womb. So now breathe deeply, not to summon your next role, but to stay with presence. Let peace hold the disorganized shift. Let your nervous system remember clarity in the middle of chaos. You're not broken. You're not failed. You're evolving. And this mechanical mist, the gap isn't a glitch. It's the signal itself, your new identity encoding itself in your being. Right now, in the silence of uncertainty, your body speaks. It doesn't rely on logic. It doesn't wait for clarity. Instead, it sends whispers through your nervous system, a knot in your chest, a tightening in your throat, a tremble behind your eyes. These aren't signs that something's wrong. They're signals, emotional signals from the gap, a reminder that you are between frequencies, between timelines, and every quiver wants to realign. When you feel paused, your brain interprets it as threat, triggering chemistry of fear, contraction, and mental fog. The limbic system floods your body with protective signals. But those very signals reinforce the paused state, like trying to thaw ice by feeding it more ice. Your body doesn't understand timelines. It only knows resonance. And right now, your resonance is asking to be recalibrated. In quantum mechanics, a system in superposition, potential states until observation causes collapse. But that observation isn't neutral. It carries a quality, its emotional and energetic signature. If you collapse from tension, the field responds with tension. But if you collapse from presence, the field realigns into coherence. That's why this emotional resonance matters more than what you know. Neuroscience confirms what quantum wisdom hints at. Your emotions are not byproducts of your journey. They shape your journey. Your body carries the long-term resistance in its biochemical rhythms. When those rhythms are activated, your next timeline can't anchor. What feels like inertia is meant to be honored, not ignored. So, how do you move through the gap instead of being paralyzed by it? Not with will, not with force, but with acknowledgement. Here's where the gap becomes transformative. You ground into the reality you feel through presence. Not by erasing emotion, but by embracing it with clarity. The anxiety that is just disorganized energy looking for coherence. The confusion, it's the echo of your past identity clinging to known ground. The heaviness, it's your future blueprint gestating, compressing energy before it expands. This gap, this energetic silence, it's not a block, it's birth space. Allow yourself to feel. Let your chest cradle the vibration of transition. Let your breath become the bridge between what you were and who you are becoming. Observe your heart rate not as a measure of failure, but as a way to sense the shifting resonance. This is emotional intelligence in motion. You may recognize that life around you pauses, but inside the spark of your aligned self is firing. Not yet visible out there, but alive inside. That spark is the signal. When you feel its energy radiating, your field begins the retuning process. So you don't push, you receive. You don't avoid, you listen. You don't rush, you allow. This is not stagnation. It's the emotional architecture of emergence. Your new timeline isn't behind the fog. It's inside. And when you attune to how you feel softly, deeply, honestly, that fog begins to clear. Not because the world changed, but because your frequency did. You're not paused. You're shifting. You find yourself in the space between what was and what's becoming. A blur of in-betweens, a vibration suspended. It is here in this energetic limbo that the most potent transitions happen. This is a moment not to push but to embody. And the ritual you need now is not about doing. It is about remembering. It is not about force, it is about resonance. Begin now. Sit or stand with presence. Close your eyes gently. Let your breath be your bridge. Not a means to calm down, but a means to come awake. Inhale awareness. Exhale resistance. Let your body soften around itself. Let your breath know you're not racing. You're arriving into the blank space where the shift is happening. Now bring your hands to your heart. Not as a gesture of need, but as a return to coherence. The heart is not a metaphor. SEO is the most powerful electromagnetic field your body generates far beyond the brains, and it carries information. The Heart Math Institute calls it energetic communication. Your heart's field responds to emotional rhythms, and those rhythms shape how the field reorganizes. Turn search, so your hand there is not symbolic, it's a tuning fork. Feel your heartbeat not with urgency but with surrender. Feel its signal radiate out, pulsing through your cells, your awareness through the gap itself. Every pulse says, I am realigning. Every beat says, I'm accessible for the next timeline to anchor through me. Now, as you feel your heart's electromagnetic hum, quietly choose 2 words, not an affirmation, but acknowledgement. I trust the gap. Allow this phrase to vibrate through your tissue, your nerve endings, through the nervous system that once held anxiety, now held in stillness. This is not comfort, it is coherence. Because quantum transition is not about where you're going, it's about how you're being, and being this aligned clears the path for timelines to reassemble. Not externally, but energetically. Breathe into that alignment. Stay here. Even if nothing external shifts, your inner signal is enough. This is how transitions feel on the inside. This is how synchronicity begins. When you're ready, shift your gaze lightly back to the room or the world. Carry this resonance forward in what you do next. A thought, a breath, a pause. Let this stillness become your new baseline. Now ground, performance but with presence. Comment below. I trust the gap is shifting me. Let this phrase be your frequency signature in the comments. A broadcast that says I'm not blocking. I'm becoming. Let that vibration ripple outward quietly, powerfully, because the transition isn't in the doing. It's in the being. And by feeling into that, you are not lost. You are transforming. You're on the brink of everything changing. But the universe never rearranges from chaos. It rearranges through coherence. Right before reality visibly shifts, there's a quiet weaving inside you. Not a fireworks finale, but a gentle alignment of nerves, rhythm, and energy. That's integration. It's the hidden moment where your inner shift syncs with the outer reality, and everything begins to respond. You might feel it first as stillness in your mind. Despite the chaos that was swirling before your awareness deepens, your nervous system, tired of noise, begins to trust the silence. Emotions that once roared, fear, doubt, urge, soften. You feel lighter, not because a solution appeared, but because your inner field shifted. The cloud clears not from force, but from resonance. This is not magic, it's measurable coherence. Electrophysiology shows that when heart, brain, breath, and emotion enter coherence simultaneously, they stabilize each other in rhythms of flow, not flow of doing, but coherent being. This alignment isn't just subtle, it crosses into your biology, increasing heart-brain synchronization and calming the limbic storm into clarity. The Heart Math Institute tells us how physiological coherence reduces stress and sharpens perception, offering a holistic base for alignment to manifest. When your internal systems align, your field stops sending mixed signals and begins broadcasting clarity. That's when life stops buffering. The breakup message lands, not through logic, but through synchronicity. The idea you had becomes the conversation you walk into. The impulse you felt becomes the opportunity. Movement emerges not from your vibrational resonance. In metaphoric terms, imagine you're navigating through fog. You can't see clearly, but when alignment happens, the density lifts not by force, but by illumination from within. Suddenly, landmarks appear as clarity, not construction. The fog isn't banished, it's transmuted. But not all integration is grand. Often it shows up as micro-shifts, a quiet answer, a door that opens without knocking, a coincidence that feels more like a compass. Reality's rearrangement is often poetic, not engineered. And if confusion returns, don't panic. Integration doesn't always feel linear. It feels receptive. It is the field reorganizing through you, not you scrambling to direct the response. That moment of alignment when your frequency matches your field is what flips the invisible switch. Not ambition, not hustle, but coherence. Pause now and sense into what's around you. Something subtle may have already shifted. Your energy, your perception, your next step. Reality is not trying to catch up, it's meeting you halfway. Because integration isn't about fixing, it's about aligning. And when that alignment becomes your inner baseline, reality rearranges. Not from your doing, but from your being. You've passed through the gap. Not by conquering it, not by fixing yourself, but by staying, by listening, by breathing your way through uncertainty, until something inside you softly, powerfully shifted. And now you are no longer who you were when this journey began. The old selfhood dissolved. The resonance changed, and something new is calling you to live differently. This is your quantum threshold, and it's time to walk through, not back into the world you knew, but forward as the version of you who already exists. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to prove it. You simply become it. This moment is not about a grand finale. It's about subtle frequency, about letting your choices echo the clarity you've cultivated inside. When you wake up tomorrow, you won't feel like a different person, but you'll notice the energy has changed. People respond differently. Time flows differently. Things feel lighter, not because your environment shifted, but because you're no longer carrying the same vibration into it. This is embodiment. When a quantum timeline stabilizes, it's not through belief alone. It's through behavior that reflects your inner coherence. That means when the doubt arises, you meet it with breath. When the urge to control returns, with presence. When the fear whispers, what if nothing changes? You respond with a smile that says, it already has. Because the truth is, the field isn't responding to your words. It's responding to your state, and your state has changed. So now you live as the version of you who already crossed over. You walk slower. You speak clearer. You listen to the wisdom between moments. You no longer rush for validation. You no longer seek evidence that it's working, because you know you are the evidence. The world doesn't change to show you something. It changes because you're now aligned with a different set of rules, a different script, a different signature in the field. Let your days from here be shaped not by effort, but by awareness. Let your work, your relationships, your inner world carry the soft imprint of the shift you've allowed. And when you forget, because you will, you don't collapse. You return. That's what quantum mastery really is. Not perfection, but frequency, loyalty. And if you ever need a reminder, return to this feeling, this stillness, this truth. Let it recalibrate you. Again and again, because you are the timeline now. You are the one who opens the door. You are the field in motion. And for those ready to deepen this shift, to turn knowledge into daily embodiment, we created something just for you. Not another theory, but a vibrational guide designed to live inside your frequency. The ebook, Awaken Your Quantum Power, is available now in the pinned urgency, just a next step. If your resonance says yes, you've crossed the threshold. Now walk like it.